Hey, hello everybody. So I'm Helana. I'm the lead programmer at Modern Dream. So today, my talk will be about two different kinds of people. If are you the people that just dream and don't do anything about those dreams, or are you those guys that dream but actually make those dreams a reality? So I'll really be talking about my path, and I'm definitely one of those that dream and makes my dream come true. So what was my dream? Before I graduated, even before going to university, I knew that I wanted to work on something that combined art and technology. Some of those paintings there, they're some of my favorite artists. My background was actually in arts, but I also study maths and physics. So that allowed me to go to university and have a technology degree, a computer science degree. I had no idea how to get there. So I knew I was going to be challenged because I had never programmed before, but I knew I wanted to do a computer science degree. I was scared. I came to England. It's like a completely different country for me, a different language, completely on my own. So all of that scared me. But I was determined. I had an ambition that I was going to achieve my dream, and I just tried. Of course, I was probably going to fail. I was scared of failing, but I succeeded. And this is the story that I'm going to tell you about today. So I studied at Oxford Brookes University. I did a computer systems and multimedia systems degree. My degree was a 4-year course, where the 3rd year I went to do a placement year. And I went to work at Symantec as a QA engineer. And for the first few months at my job, I sort of realized that that was definitely not what I wanted to do after I graduated. So sometimes it's actually good for you to just go out there and try different things, just to make sure that that's exactly what you want or not want to do afterwards. So I came back to university and I thought, right, this is not creative enough for me. How can I achieve that? And I thought, the games industry. I loved games. Games are art for me. There's quite a lot of art involved in that. And I could be a programmer, my technology side of things. So I went and researched for different job descriptions. And I saw I needed C++. And it's like, my course didn't support C++. Again, I was faced with a challenge. So I decided for my final year, my dissertation, to do little game. It's like a tool to teach kids how to program. And I did quite well at that, actually, because I managed to get a first in the end. And that was what allowed me afterwards to get a job in the industry. So my first job was as a programmer at Pivotal Games. And those guys just happened to be the first that I sent my CV to, the first that offered me an interview, and the first to offer me a job. To be honest, that is an exception to the rule, I think. That doesn't often happen. Normally, you have to send a lot of CVs, and I did send to many companies, and I didn't hear anything from a lot of them. So just keep trying. That will be my message today. Unfortunately, 10 months later of me starting at Pivotal Games, the company closed down. Sadly, that happens quite often. So I had to decide, right, what am I going to do? So I started looking for other jobs, and I applied for Blitz Game Studios. I started as a tools programmer. So I always really love to do interfaces for games, to really be involved with the users. And because I had done C# at Pivotal, that sort of gave me that door, the entrance to that position at Blitz. And for me, I loved that job. Was it 2.5 years that I stayed in there in a Blitz Tech, working in Blitz Tech. That was their engine at Blitz. And I was working very closely with games teams. But after 3.5 years, I decided, okay, I want to do something even more creative, and I asked those guys if I could join their game teams. I wanted to be there in the firing line of making games. And that's how I started working on Epic Mickey 2. So I was working on the Wii, Xbox 360, and PS3. It was a great experience for me. And after 1.5 years of working on that game, it was with Disney, so it was quite an exciting challenge in that sense. I worked on Ace of Spades, completely different game. It was in Python. It was actually an indie game before. So I achieved. I achieved what I set to do. But that wasn't enough, of course, because we always keep dreaming, right? We don't have just one dream. Unfortunately, Blitz Game Studios closed last year, September last year. And even though I achieved my dream, I was again faced in a situation of, right, what's next? So that's where Modern Dream sort of comes in. Before Blitz closed down, about 2 years before that, I started creating some indie games together with Ollie, doing the art. I was doing the programming side of things, and we were also working with a really nice guy called Chris Randall doing the music for it. These indie games, they were extremely simple. So the Category Milk was our first game. It was about 15 minutes sort of game experience. We released it for free. We were actually learning how to use Unity. I think that was really the intention behind it. And for us, it was an opportunity of combining our passion again for all the art. So you can see the influence of different artists, Kandinsky over there. And the music, because the music really, gelled really nicely there. So a year after releasing the Milk, we started working on the Bundle Affair. And for us, there was giving ourselves more challenges. It's like stepping up a notch every time we do a new game. So the Galagon Milk was something so simple. It was like up and down. That was the only 2 keys to control the game. The Bundle Affair was up and down, and you could go faster. You have 3 keys. But it's all about having that art again. But it was a 3D character, even though it looked 2D. Endless Runner, is working on making that dream a reality and challenge yourself all the time. So going back, Blitz closed down in September, and that's when Modern Dream officially, came to the market. So it was funded in September, and we actually finished Typing of the Dead for Sega. That was a game that was being developed at Blitz, and when Blitz closed down, we sort of finished that game for them. So it was like 6 weeks of development. Extremely challenging. But yeah, I just can't read my slides. Yeah, and we were nominated at one of the most promising startups, which for us, it was like, wow, that's a great achievement, after all of that hard work. But that finished, in November. So it was six weeks of development. And who is Modern Dream? Modern Dream is passionate about making games, making fun experiences, making games where the art and the music take center stage, where they combine and they are in symphony with each other. And we appreciate the players' times as well. It's like in this day and age, really, who has time to play a 50-hour game from start to finish? Any of you? No one. Okay, so many games are out there, and we all want to try those different games as well. So it's quite hard. So for us, we always want to try to make short experiences, but experiences that are worth the player's time. So this is the game that we are currently working on. We started in January. LA Cops is our first indie full-time title, and we're so excited about this game. For me, it was a super challenge in terms of programming. So that's when I became the lead programmer at Modern Dream. I was doing all the gameplay code for it. Ollie was doing all the art and project management as well. And we had some freelance guys helping us out. So Chris Randall is doing the amazing soundtrack, like a rock soundtrack of the 70s. And we had some of those freelancers helping us out with some of the art, some of the back end of Game Center and Steam integration, and animation. So what is LA Cops? It's a 3D shooting game. So if you think, some people say that it reminds them of Hotline Miami, but what you can sort of rotate the camera 360 degrees. You have the visuals that for us was very important to have it there. If you remember the slides from the Button Affair, we sort of brought that art back into LA Cops because we wanted to develop it further. So you control 2 characters. You can choose out of 6 cops. And it's a 70s cop story, so you have a lot of mustaches, a lot of aviator glasses, and you control one character, and the other one is an AI character that you can sort of direct it to different places. And the aim is you have each level, and you have to take all the enemies down, or you can arrest them and be a good cop instead of killing the enemies and have a better score. So this is some of the visuals. The game is currently on Steam Early Access, and we are just starting a port for Xbox One, and hopefully next year for PlayStation 4 as well. So we achieved our goal. We are actually living our dream right now. But when we first started, we were working from our home. And I don't know if you have that experience or not, but it can be quite a lonely experience sometimes. So our new dream was to be able to work from a space that we could share with other people that were in a similar situation to us, creative people, and share those experiences. So when you're working in a big studio, you have sort of different hierarchies in terms of, you have junior programmers, you have, artists, you have regular ones, you have senior ones, you have managers, you have the company directors. And for us, as a small company, that didn't really make sense. We didn't want this, the boss of the boss of the boss of the boss, because actually you end up being everyone at the same time sometimes. I do a lot more than what it says on the tin. I'm not just that lead programmer. I don't just do programming. I do a bit of the design. I'm there on Twitter helping those guys, talking about the game. I'm looking at the forums, listening to what our players are saying. You end up being a lot in one. So that was our dream. How could we make that a reality? And we actually did. This is Arch Creatives. Even before Blitz closed down, we had this idea that we wanted to just get the community. This is in Leamington Spa, by the way. There are a lot of developers in that area, and we wanted to get those developers together. And every time we met on social gatherings, we were thinking, it would be nice to have this space where we all could use and work together. So on May this year, we managed to actually open this space. So this is where there are 3 companies right now working there, Modern Dream being one of them. The first game is going to be released next week, so it's Luma Deliveries on iOS. We are very excited for those guys. And there's also Calvino Noir working from there. We also have different freelancers coming by. So you have full-time people, And we have just people that come in and, just for hot desking. So you come in, you pay £10 a day, or you pay £120 for full access for the whole month, or we give a 20% discount for people that come in and pay in advance. So even if you want to work just once a week there, you get the 20% discount. So Arch Creatives is, as I mentioned, a co-working space in Leamington Spa. And it's a space where the small studios or whoever uses the space doesn't have to worry about all the costs, of hiring a big studio, a big space. We worry about those ones because myself, I'm one of the 5 directors of the space, and we have to manage all that stuff. But it's still quite a small scale in comparison to a huge building for 200 people, So companies just need to come in, and that's it. They have the desk space there. So it's a space that we share ideas, we share experiences, we share contacts. The 3 companies that were there, they actually, managed to get some funding to go to Gamescom in Germany this year. And then we came back and we talked about, who we met and how we could help each other. We do try to do weekly reviews, even though sometimes we're too busy, and those are at least once a month. We review each other's games. And if you think about it, we are 3 different companies. In theory, we are all competing with each other. But we don't even use the word competition. It's a healthy competition if you really want to use that word. We look at each other's games and we sort of say, oh, have you thought about this? Or, what do you think about changing this little bit? Oh, I don't understand that bit. And what that does is, by being critical about those experiences, we are actually getting better as individuals, as game makers, and the games become better. So I think that's how we think. That's why we love to work from the space. And it's, of course, a space where we make amazing games. You will see that, especially in terms of art, they're so different, but they're so strong art-wise. And it's a space that adapts to the constant changes of the industry. We not only have the co-working space set up like that, but sometimes we put all the tables to the side, and we have events. We hosted a Sony open day over there, for all the locals or other people to come and enjoy that day, listen to Sony, don't have to go to London to hear, those things. We had Yuki coming by with, the government people to talk about the tax breaks. We are there to support the developers. We are there to grow as a community, to all benefit from that, and to all be strong. I truly believe that if we work together, we can be stronger. So, if your challenge, if your dream is to have your own company, based on my experience, these are some of the things that you should think about. Set an identity for your company. What do you want people to see or talk about when they read about your company? What are you trying to do? Is it making games? Which type of games? Is it selling products? Is it providing services? Are you a freelancer and you're setting up your own company as a freelancer? What is it? Find that core for your company. Choose a company name, a good one, a name that people will remember, that is not offensive. It's like if you tell your friend that idea for that company name that you got, ask him tomorrow or in a week's time if he remembers what that name is. And if he doesn't, maybe it's not a good name. It needs to be catchy, something that people will always remember. It's like, oh yeah, it's those guys. Oh yeah, and they do that thing. Work on your labels as well. Work on a good icon. Something that is relevant to what you're doing as well. Because very often you will need very straight away, really, when you set up. You need business cards because you're going to meet people. Suddenly you become an identity, and you want to share that identity with other people. Sometimes you exchange business cards and you look, okay, that looks a bit weird. That's not really professional. That's actually, this picture's a bit offensive. You don't want any of that to be associated with your company. Register your company. Okay, is important for that. But also, before you work on that company name, have a look to see if any of your ideas are already registered. Because it's awful to like, oh yeah, I have this great idea, and you go there, it's like, oh no, all of these websites are already taken, and you have to put dashes and dots and whatever to your company name, and you don't want that. You want a simple link that people can click and go, and check your website. Website is another thing that you really should have. Is the first point online that people see who your company is, what you are all about. And that's why graphical, like in terms of icons, it's so important to have everything tied in, everything consistent. So going back to registering your company, find a good accountant. Because good accountants can actually save you quite a lot of money. For us, you can actually go and register your company yourself, and it's actually cheaper than asking your accountant to do that. But we chose to go with our accountant because we didn't want to read loads of things and fill in so many paperwork, and maybe we fill in something that is not quite right, and we're actually busy making games, and we don't want to have that worry. So that was it. And you also need a registered address and a postal address, and you can actually ask your accountant to use their address as the registered address for the company. Set up a bank account. Be aware that at least, in our case, we had to wait at least 2 weeks for an appointment to get a bank account. And make sure you register your company before you go and get your bank account as well, because they will need the certificate and the company registration number for that. Just things to consider that we normally forget about these things. And I already mentioned about creating a website. If you're going on Twitter, on Facebook, have an online presence. In this day and age, being there in the social media is so, so important. So really my summary and more of an advice for you guys based on all of this year's experience is if you're going to set up your company, find good people to work with. Okay, that is so important. If you're going to contract freelancers, make sure they're good people, make sure they have good attitude, because you can spend more time managing those guys than actually doing any work. So you contract them to help you because you don't have time to do certain things, and you ended up managing them, so you ended up not doing your work. So it's really important. Be flexible. Be what we call a T-shaped guy. Do a lot more than what that label says. You're not just a programmer, you're not just a project director, you're not just a designer, an artist. You are a lot of people at once. Be prepared to work. It's hard, but you're building your dream. Remember that. Follow your passion. When we work on something that we are absolutely passionate about, it's like it makes life easier, because you're doing because you love it. You're not just like, it's not a 9-to-5 job. No. If you're setting up your company, be prepared to work more than 9 to 5. Set goals for yourself, because it's easier to manage things. And if those goals, put them into tasks. And if those tasks are too big, break those tasks even further, just to be more manageable. Sometimes you think of this big idea and it's quite scary and you don't quite know how to get there, So break that down, because it's very easy to then see the bigger picture and see that you're accomplishing things towards that big goal. Work on your skills. You want to be the best at what you do. So again, be prepared to work hard. When people say to you, oh, I don't have time. As a student, I often hear students telling me, I don't have time, I don't have time. You do have time. You know, I know if I could go back and tell that to my student self, I would definitely do it. You know, because when you start your own business, that's when you don't have time. Don't be afraid of failing. I think out of all of those, I think that's a very, very good point. You know, often we don't even try because we are scared of failing. But actually it's failing that we learn so much more of what not to do next, you know, and try to learn from those mistakes. You know, allow yourself to fail, allow the people around you to fail, you know, but then question them afterwards if they fail again on the same point. You know, make sure you're learning with those. Be brave to take the steps that needs to take to make your dream a reality. You know, don't be afraid, just go for it. Don't give up. There are times that you think, crikey, that's so hard. It's like, oh, I don't think I'm going to be able to do it. Don't give up. Just keep going for it. You know, you can do it. Believe in yourself. And most important of all, have fun. You know, it's like you, at the end of the day, for example, myself, I'm making games. Games are there for people to have fun. So you should have fun in the process. Dream big, okay? Ideas, dreams, they're all free, you know? So just go for it. And really question yourself. Do you want to be that person that just has dreams, but is so scared of trying that those dreams never become a reality? Or do you want to be that person that works hard to make your passion, to make your dreams become that reality and live that dream? Thank you for listening. If you have any questions.